If I could only pick one variable that makes or breaks hydroponics success, it would be pH. And I know this sounds dramatic, but it's true. You can have the best nutrients, the best lights, a clean system, strong seedlings, and if your pH drifts out of range, your plants can still stall or start looking deficient or never perform the way you expect. Today, I'm going to give you the beginner-friendly version of pH management. What pH is, why it matters so much, how to test it, how to adjust it safely, and how to keep it stable, regardless of the system you're running.
Think of it this way. pH controls nutrient availability. When pH is too high, plants often show what looks like deficiencies, especially with micronutrients like iron and manganese. You'll see pale new growth, yellowing between the veins, slow growth, even if your nutrient recipe is right. When pH is too low, you can create a different kind of problem. Some nutrients become too available, which can cause imbalance, root stress, and sometimes leaf damage that looks like burn or toxicity. And here's what tricks beginners the most. pH problems often masquerade as nutrient problems, so you might be tempted to add more fertilizer. But the real issue is that the plant can't access what's already there. So what is pH in plain language? pH stands for the potential or power of hydrogen. It is a measure of how many hydrogen ions are present in the solution. In practical terms, it is a measure of how acidic or basic your water is. The more hydrogen ions present, the more acidic the solution. The scale runs from 0 to 14. 7 is our neutral point. Below 7 is considered an acidic solution. Above 7 is considered a basic solution. One final point to add for our conceptual understanding: pH is logarithmic. A 1-point change is a big deal. Water at pH 6 isn't just a little more acidic than pH 7, it's about 10 times more acidic. That's why small-looking swings on the meter can have big effects on plant performance. Now let's connect that to what plants are actually doing in hydroponics. Plants don't absorb nutrients like drinking a vitamin shake. They absorb nutrients as charged ions. Nitrate, phosphate, potassium, these are all charged ions. pH affects the chemical form of those nutrients and how easily roots can take them up. In the right range, most nutrients stay dissolved and accessible to the plant. Outside the right range, certain nutrients become harder to absorb or behave differently in solution. In real life, you're considering pH in 3 places: your source water, your freshly mixed working solution, and your system over time. First, the source water. Your starting water might have a naturally high or low pH, but more importantly, it can have alkalinity, which means it resists change and often pushes pH upward over time. Second, your fresh working solution. Now, these nutrients can shift pH as soon as you mix them, so always test pH after nutrients are added and thoroughly mixed. Third, system drift. As plants grow, pH moves. Uptake patterns change ion balance. Evaporation and top-offs matter, and biological activity can influence pH as well. So even if you start perfect, you should not expect it to stay perfect without monitoring, and monitoring is an ongoing process. Here's the rule: you can't manage what you don't measure. There are a few common pH testing methods. First, test strips or liquid drop kits. These are cheap, simple, and reliable, but they're less precise. They're fine for confirming ranges and for beginners who are learning. Second is a pen-style or mobile digital meter. These are a good middle ground for most growers. They're fast, portable, and accurate, as long as you take proper care of them. And finally, continuous monitoring systems. These stay in your reservoir and show pH in real time. These are excellent for larger systems, or if you want fewer surprises. Most can be monitored remotely as well, so you have constant contact with your system. Let me emphasize that accuracy of digital meters depends on maintenance. If you're using a probe, you need to calibrate. Keep it clean and store it correctly. A neglected meter is worse than no meter because it gives false confidence. This is probably one reason that one of the big names in hydroponics, Dr. B.A. Cracky, still uses the liquid drop kits. To adjust pH, growers typically use pH down. It's an acid, or pH up, which is a base. Two rules that will save you a lot of frustration. First, make small adjustments. If this is your first time adjusting, add a little, mix thoroughly, then wait an hour before adding more. Don't dump in a big shot and chase the numbers. While you'll notice a difference in pH right away, it does take time for the pH to settle after adjustment. A common beginner mistake is to add pH down, retest immediately, add more, retest, add more, retest. Think everything is finally good, only to find the next day that the solution pH has dropped dramatically. At that point, the only recourse may be to add pH up or throw out the solution and start over. Avoid chasing the numbers just by having a little patience. How much pH adjustment to add will depend on the alkalinity and starting pH of your source water. A few test cases with a gallon of working solution will help you dial in your specific pH adjustment. My source water, for example, has an alkalinity of 120 parts per million with a pH of 7.4. So I add 2 milliliters of general hydroponics pH down to get each gallon of working solution at my desired 5.5 to 6.2 pH range. I make the adjustment when mixing my solution, then walk away and retest the next day. The most common form of pH adjustment for hydroponic growers will be using pH down. This is because most source water is neutral to slightly basic, which is high pH, and because plants will usually drive the pH up as they uptake nitrate ions. However, if you need to lower pH, the steps are the same. Test, adjust, wait, test again. All right, second point on pH adjustment. Use basic safety practices. These are real chemicals. The general hydroponics pH down is a phosphoric acid. Some other options are nitric acid and sulfuric acid. Most pH down available for hydroponics have been sufficiently diluted so it won't cause burns if it comes in contact with your skin. However, it is important to read labels, wear gloves and eye protection, avoid splashes, store them safely, and never mix concentrates together. Let's look at how system design affects pH stability. In a nutrient film technique, solution volume is usually low, so pH can swing fast. It's an efficient system, but you have to monitor it closely. In deep water culture, high water volume usually means more stability day to day, but you can still see steady drift as plants feed and the system matures. In drain to waste, you control the pH of what you feed each time, but the root zone environment can vary depending on media and runoff, so consistency and accuracy still matters. In general, more water volume equals more stability, but no system gets a free pass.
Here's a routine that works for most beginners. When you're learning, test daily. Once stable, it's okay to move to testing several times per week. Test at the same time of day if able so you can more easily spot trends. Always mix nutrients first, then test and adjust pH. Log your results, even quick notes in your phone. Trends let you correct early instead of reacting late. Logs also help you gain an understanding of how pH behaves in your system, so you can proactively develop management techniques for your particular growing conditions and crops. Along those lines, target ranges depend on crop, but most hydroponic crops all fall in the range of 5.5 to 6.5. If you keep your solution in this range, you can grow most traditional crops without trouble. Sweet spots for leafy greens for me is 5.5 to 6.2. Finally, remember that pH isn't a one-time setup. It's a continuous practice. Monitor it, log it, adjust it early, and you'll prevent a huge percentage of the mystery problems that frustrate most new growers.